Okay. You're all set, Susie?
I'd like to call the meeting to order. It's a few minutes before 5:30, but we will go ahead and get started. And I got a message from Luke that he has had surgery and he's absent tonight, and he had COVID last month, so he will be out. And Jessica is out, and she'll be out again next month. And she had sent me a message to let me know that she's unavailable.
Susie, and Counselor Bannies is over at the
Oh, yes.
the voting event tonight.
Okay,
We have how many?
at 5, and I have not heard from Amy, and she may still show up, or and I checked right before I came to see if we had any messages, but I didn't see. Okay, so I'd like to turn it over to Kathleen. She said she had a couple of edits on the minute.
So on the July 19th minutes, actually, I came in as the chair of the meeting, and then what I did was I went down the chair report, actually had a sentence that I'm not sure how it's in here, but that first sentence on the chair report, no written report, doesn't have to be in there, because what I did do was do a verbal or oral, and I reported that I received the email from Susie, letting me know positive news. She had volunteered to be the new chair, and Lois volunteered to be the new vice chair. So that just kind of needs to be updated. On page 1, on page 2, in the discussion items, that was it. I just added one sentence that the chair turned the meeting over to the new chair. That went right after the election. Then down under announcements, and this is just one of the little administrative type of things. It says that the meeting will be in Little Creek. We've been doing city council quite a while. And finally, the minutes being reviewed and approved by the director and board. The date should read October 18th instead of September. That's it for July. Then for the September meeting, right at the top, the date of the meeting minutes should be September. September 20th instead of October. Let's see, under action items, and this is kind of a memory, and I think it was right at the top of the meeting I asked about the forum question, and you said 5. And it's not in here, but so that was.
I don't remember saying 5. I had to double check with Joe on 5.
Okay,
Yes.
Okay, so we'll just keep that.
Okay.
That was the memory I did make a note of enough ones. And at the very bottom, again, it's the approval by director and board October 20th.
September 20th.
No, because the approval,
Approval.
reviewed and approved. And that's it
Okay, thank you.
for the piece.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay,
Yes.
yeah, I just have one comment on the September meeting. Yeah, at the end, and I may have misstated myself, or maybe I said it correctly, and I'm trying to change it now, but I was asking regarding signage to help for the book drop. And I didn't realize, and I just spaced out, this isn't the building I'm talking about, we're talking about the alley. So we're talking about signage which would be coordinated with the alley, not with the library building here. I don't see a benefit to that. It's kind of as the alley comes off, or what is that for?
Yeah. No, it's 3rd.
Yeah.
The third or
No, third, is the third right behind us?
Yeah, is
Just
that
a
third?
second, that's 3rd.
Second, third, I
So
don't know.
you put the sign on.
Well, it's up to the city how they, public works wants to do it. Ideally, it would be nice to have a sign on was 3rd or 4th, whatever the Bruce Street is, and then to the alley. So now I don't want to over signage thing, but I think all we got to want to cover is kind of that direction.
Okay.
Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, thank
So
you.
it involves the city public works. area.
Right, and
And whatever private properties involved, I don't know. Thank
Yeah,
you.
because if it's in the alley, there's, you gotta get to the alley.
You gotta get to the alley, and then you gotta know that that's the library is not a. The library, no, they typically new people in town, it's a growing town, people maybe haven't used library. So, that's
Well,
all,
that's a good, it's a really good.
okay, thank you, just clarify that and then. Sure.
Any other suggestions or changes? So can we have an approval of the minutes as revised?
I saw.
Okay,
I second it.
thank you.
motion, sorry, for both sets or just
Oh,
one?
I'm sorry.
We need to approve both.
So motion for the July minutes. Okay.
I second.
Motion for the second, I mean September.
I saw move for the second.
Second.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm sorry, you're moving for, you motioned for the line. Both, guys. Lois seconded July and Denise. Second, got it, thank you guys.
Okay. Next item is public comment. We have no one.
Oh.
Maybe. I don't know, can you tell on Danny's checking? See if we have someone on this.
Nope.
Yeah. Okay, Danny, did Chris send you a liaison report from?
I don't have any update from
Lois,
Councilman.
did you get anything?
No, you just.
Okay.
Texted me to say he wasn't gonna be here.
Okay, so there was no report and I did not receive anything. The board chair report I sent out. Okay. Yes, read it and received it. Okay. Any questions or concerns? It's just basically a review of what we had set up last month. On some action items.
Is this a public document that you share with others, or is it just what we discussed here?
It would be a public document.
Because I think the SLO should be spelled out.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. I will make that correction.
And maybe even the OAR.
Okay.
It's just the acronyms
Right.
that will throw everybody off.
Right.
Because they don't understand what we're talking.
Okay. That is a good point. Okay, I will amend that and I will see. So board member reports, Luke did not send, I asked Luke if he had anything, but I think he's a little preoccupied. It's medical concerns, so do not have one from him. Do we have a report from Lois from Friends?
I sent out my report, basically, I haven't heard yet how much money was made at the Friendsgiving tournament at the club. It's not as much as last year, we're not getting as much this year. The next big thing will be the tour of lights at Christmas. That's supposed to be a big fundraiser, and for this year, finally, the Friends of the Library are participating in the scarecrow contest, and that was fun. I hope everybody admired it.
It was very nice.
Yes, I love that.
It's great.
Across the street.
Oh, I think that's.
Cute, so. There are people who've been coming up at night and stop to have a little old lady across. The street. Yeah, they did a good job of that, yeah. Yeah, there's probably, seems like there's about twice as many airports this year.
Yes.
So it's getting to be a thing.
And will they do the snow?
No, but I asked Mary about that with tour of lights, she's just not sure.
Yeah.
That's all I have.
Right. Okay, thank you. Susie, please?
Yeah, the elder.
Yes,
Um,
future chair. Your microphone, there. Thanks.
2 moments ago, I was informed by Danny. Who has an
That LDAC is tentatively planning November 14th. So
There's an actual date.
the details are not out, so I can't say it's in cement, but that's very promising, the fact that they're getting something on schedule, so. And I think that, the way he understands it is that it's probably going to be a reset and try to create a flavor of, let's pull this back together and start out on it. So,
That'll be a good start.
yeah. So I'm
And
thinking-
where is the meeting?
Not quite sure yet, but the date is probably reliable. So date or location and time, we're gonna wait till it's in print.
Yeah.
It open to the public?
Yes,
Be nice. 'Cause that'll be before our next meeting. Okay, so. Thank you, Denise.
service.
Dan.
So, we have a new face here. I was hoping she could meet the whole board, but this is Amber Quinn. Amber is the manager in the library, and she'll be replacing, the office and the role that Lizzie formerly had, as well. So we're super excited she's here. It's her second day.
Wow.
And, next week, our children's librarian, Philip Yoakum, will be starting as well. And he comes to us from Ventura, California. So, we'll see some new faces, some new programs for the kiddos coming, and we're super excited to have them both here, or almost here.
So Amber, where were you before coming to Candy?
I worked at Berlin Community College.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Well, welcome.
really excited.
Yes. It's a wonderful place.
And I missed the position, what is, Amber, what's your Amber position?
I'm the library
Library manager, thank you.
Okay. So next we'll go to, Denise. Or Danny, either one of you, who have the Oregon report, and we're going.
Yeah, so you have in front of you, Danny, what made copies for everyone. These are golden because we have to have them copied rather than see it on the screen. And hopefully we'll have an adjustment. The camera can see things that we want to present on the computer, but for right now, it's in front of you. It's actually
These are part of the packets, everybody can have access to it online already. Sorry, Denise.
That's good. It's. When I was reviewing it, I was comparing it to the last 2 years. And I can tell you the extensiveness of this one surprised me. How much they not only expanded, but they do adjust the wording so they can separate things. And one of my questions with Danny was, that's there was a lot more work involved, and he agreed that it changes each year, but this one definitely had more changes than normal. And I'm surprised that he was able to pull this together in the 9 hours they recorded. That also included COVID questions, and these are all things that were first timers. So you had to pull this data from all different areas. If you don't know what the question was coming, you didn't have it collected, so.
Right.
It was a lot. It does show that we're definitely headed in the right direction. Definitely, we've done more than I would have expected in a year following COVID. But looks like management of not only funds, but the activities and things was not only on par with what we've done before, but it is increasing. And that was really nice to see post-COVID. It's exciting that new people are coming into the library, and I think with the energy of new faces that this is only going to increase. So I was really pleased. Dan, if you have anything to add?
The. Sorry, 2 years ago, or almost 3 now, the state library, just for a little background, changed the recording platform. So the format of this changed completely to this, what you see in front of you. A few years ago, before they switched platforms with the state, it showed us the prior year up against our current year. So that is really hard to articulate until they move it into the spreadsheet now manually, which they're not even caught up to. If you look at the state website, you can see our data there over time. But this, it doesn't show up yet because this isn't even submitted yet to the state. So this is really tricky. I apologize, and would create a massive amount of work for us to try to move that data before the state even does it. So I apologize for that lack of clarity, but that's a platform challenge that we're still trying to figure out as far as how the old one showed us here prior and then this. The one thing I wanted to point out, and Denise talked a little bit about, is there's a few different sections. One of the ones I wanted to point out, if you do, well, when this data gets loaded, remember this is year prior, so this is last fiscal year ending on June 30th. So the data does not take into account anything after July 1 of this year. But for instance, one of the things that looks anomalous, if you turn to page 16, is website visits. This one, if you compare to year prior, is showing 128,053 views, which seemingly for a city of our size is a lot of website visits. But the county, as we looked at this with the state, reinterpreted the ask, and they didn't, what we've done historically is we count how many people come to the City of Canby Library webpage. But what was missed is the county now is including when someone comes through their pass through on their website to us, that's technically required to be counted. So this is an example of how the data, as we report it and the ask, it changes slightly year by year, even though we're trying to report apples to apples. So I wanted to just say that the state library staff, the county staff, and the city staff, we all work together on this to try to pull this massive report together, because then this is then this goes to the IMLS, which is the federal level, which does the LSTA and some of the federal level funding for libraries. So I just wanted to make sure that as you look at these, there may be things like that, like the website visits, that to me looks like an error, but that's the context to why the number is so much greater than like last year or even the year prior. So we continue to see the data trending, which we'll be able to see once the state finishes this up. We're seeing this across libraries all over, but we're not seeing the exact same numbers as we did before COVID. So we're still, I think, as an industry trying to figure out where people are at. Are people so comfortable coming into open spaces? You know, there's a lot of things that we don't know. So, but this staff did a great job. This is a team effort. This is certainly not me alone, where we work together to pull all the different types of data, from finance to HR, to facilities, to county, to IT. We work together on this. So I just wanted to say thank you to all those folks who helped. Yeah, that's the summary that I have.
And it's done, this report is done, or will be done yearly? Is that correct?
Yes, it's a requirement in the state of Oregon for all libraries in the state of Oregon, public, academic, and special.
Okay. So this year started July 1st, 2022, and you'll accumulate the same information through.
Correct. Yep, and then we re-report the next fall.
I had comments. I noticed in this one, and maybe it's just that it showed because I printed it, but they actually tried to explain what they were looking for on each of these, where I don't remember that showing up in the last years.
The state, I think, as a matter of what I was just explaining, what you're saying, is trying to make this as clear as possible for all the libraries across the state, because there's a lot of us that are trying. We're all pulling data from different sources and we're trying to make sure that we're comparing ourselves equally and accurately because for instance, if we want to compare ourselves with another municipality and they're reporting their data different, it's very difficult to say one to one.
And then at the very end, since this is a draft is not completely finalized, the something you're proud of in the vote of your library will be coming.
Okay.
Yeah, it was like, nothing
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
Has not only things in mind, but he's also trying to figure the best angle of the library to take a
Yeah.
picture. So, those are things that I'm looking forward to seeing the final version, but, kudos, Danny, to you and your team. I think it was an outstanding job.
Yes, yeah, amazing. And it's really nice to see all of this accumulated. I know it's a lot of work. But it's.
I just have one question.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah.
for a second. Some of my education being somewhat new on the whole library, process. Is there any value or reason, I should say, for our, what is our input, or where should we see some concern, or where should we focus some of our interest in these, like this, how many parts to this? There's 5 parts, I think, 5 sections, or 7, I don't know, it's for Danny, actually. Is there anything that we can we can have some impact on as far as over some, something that might be strictly a library internal function or internal budget situation, or maybe it's a grant? I'm just throwing things out. Where would we have? And I know this is just a report. It's got nothing to do with comparing it to how we compare against other libraries. This is just a report that's required. I understand all that, but just piggybacking on that, is there anything here that would jump out to you that, oh yeah, maybe the library board should be more knowledgeable about this particular part? And it's
Well, I
like,
think it's probably a matter of opinion, Rick. I think one of the things that the board historically is interested in is advocating for our funding of the library. One of the things you'll notice is, if you look at page 4, sorry, you can see the city revenue. And then if you look at what was approved for this current budget year, continues to increase. So that is city council and the budget committee's support of the library, which for the last 2 years has been very supportive. So one of the things that I think, I can't ask the board to do this, but I would just say, I think the board plays a critical role in sharing with council, that the library is what helps create a welcoming livable community for community. And that with the funding that the city uses to offset the district funds, that's what helps us keep everything at the level that we have today, which is a really great library for the community.
So I had when we first got the city support financially, that was what the focus was, that we had to convince people on the council who were unfamiliar with the library that the role of the library in the community is really, really important and enriches the whole community, but also the area. So, yeah, it's great to see the fruits being born.
So my comment was gonna be the same thing that I said in the last meeting, that to me, these reports, just even on a historical basis, really does help us see the growth. I mean, you always have to see the graph moving up to the right, and I think that for some of these things, that seeing the comparison is, and I realized that, I mean, I used to have to do reporting, like, I would not have, when I have to translate it into Excel, but that's the kind of thing that I think that, would be of more value to us, because as long as the graph's going up to the right, it's kind of like, tick the box, and then if something happens, then it's like, oh yeah, we need to pay attention to why did the graph go up to the right? So that's just, for me, that's how I like to see data like this, but I'm also aware of regulatory reporting requirements and know how onerous they can be, so.
Oh, go ahead.
I thought on the, is that would it be possible maybe to really work hard to recruit? I'm conscious of some more members going on here in of this fiscal year. To recruit someone who might be willing to work at doing that kind of illustration, those graphs. Because to me, what Lois is saying is that's one way to convince the council and even the county and that what the value is, and look, this is what we're doing, we're really working on this. So,
Well, I don't want to get too far out in front of this, but the state does catch up with us in a few more months, once all of our data is submitted. And I feel like they have the staffing and the expertise where we can actually ask them to come alongside us and help us with some of this. So I could ask the state librarian who is responsible for this, his name is Ross Lukway, and Ross could most likely help us with a visual that we could maybe revisit again annually to help see that, but it will come a few months after the data is submitted, because this all has to go to the IMLF before we have that bigger picture.
And I think it's good to be asking those questions, because then the regulatory agencies can see that, you know, yeah, you expect us to spend all this time, you know, feeding all this information to you, but we would like something back as well.
We'd
You
like
know,
to use it, right.
There's a little bit of quid pro quo here, and that as long as we are making the ask, saying, you know, we love all this data, but you gotta give it back to us in a.
Do you think a 5-year snapshot at any given time would be a good
Yes.
view for the board?
Yeah, I think that,
I can ask, because
right.
that at least gives you a pretty recent chunk of time. Okay, thank you.
You know, we would want to start that 5 years this next reporting because of COVID being the middle of it. It's not really.
It's gonna skew it a little bit,
Yeah.
but you'll just need a rolling 5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just gonna be there.
One thing that I noticed in this report that programming has not come up to par yet. That's definitely a struggle with COVID. And I see that probably going up, but I don't think that we have the ability to do that quite yet.
Well, and sorry, part of that is, yes, we're still seeing a very different world that we live in post-COVID. The other part of that is we're trying to balance our resources and the services that we provide to a sustainable place. And some of the former programming got into the unsustainable. So we're trying to balance that. That's an ongoing conversation I have with the city administrator to make sure that we're not burning staff out. We're not spreading ourselves so thin that we're not providing high quality in fewer things that really resonate with the community. So that's really the philosophy that I'm working with the staff right now.
If we understand better how more funds would help you in the, not only programming, but you were talking about the computer offerings and things not being up to the latest versions, things. It would be something that we could go to city council about. The funds we would like to get would be for this or that. If we had something to put our thumb on, it might help our presentation for that.
and what we did originally was because Elijah Ronick was tied to Direct Link, was he got grease from them to get us moving in the direction of. So, we don't we've got any links like that now or not. It's been fun. And I have a funny question. Part 2 says staff and volunteers. I think we're sitting at the table of volunteers. They don't include a question of maybe we're going to have from our library.
I actually don't know about that piece, Kathleen. I mean, ask specifically about Friends of the Library and Foundation.
I think because we are considered part of the city.
And so I think you're counted you may not be counted in the library report, but you are counted in other boards and commissions. The city reporter, as far as I know. Yes, it's not people where this group gets counted.
I have a question regarding, the revenue. So I know the city revenue is based on budget, correct? The amount, excuse me, the amount that you receive from the city. Like the district revenue, how is that determined?
That's all part of the taxing district that was established, I think in 08.
Okay.
09.
So that's all tax.
Correct. That's
Okay.
all through what you see on your property tax statement under library district.
Okay, and then the state revenue piece, it's the small.
That
piece.
is a grant for Ready to Read that we get every year for summer reading.
Okay, and do you have to apply for that every year?
Yes.
You do, okay.
I think that
Right,
the
gotcha.
last report included also some funds from the. Or not from the city itself. Did it not include that? Wasn't there some funds that were? I don't know if you call it gifted to the library from the city to help us get through some of the things. I don't know if it was COVID or whatever.
I mean, the funding that we get from the city is under city revenue. And so typically, at least in our example, the district covers the vast majority of our expenses. And then historically, Canby has contributed less than some of our peers and about the same as a few others. And so now, to sustain the current level of service, especially when we look at the growing expenses of everything around us, the city, like I referred to earlier, seems council and budget committee seem very supportive of the library and continuing to make a very small offset in the grand scheme of the whole city budget to help balance the budget for the library. So that's that piece. Yeah, it's so those two pieces, the 1,055,000 plus 172,000 should be the total operating budget for the library that we approved last year. Yeah,
Together.
yep.
Okay, good.
Thank you. Any other questions or concerns? Okay. Thank you, Bruce, for delving into this. It's to me, it's very informative. Enjoyed reading it. I think our next item, I had put on the list, and it was just the, I guess, the library organizational chart, and Danny and I discussed this, and basically my concern here was just that we have new people coming on board, and I just wanted the library board to know who was coming on and who left, just so we would all know on a staffing level that everything is good, and I think Danny's kind of already addressed that. And they're fully staffed, well, when we get the next new person. Yeah. Does anybody have any questions or anything they'd like to bring up? Well, sure.
So I just didn't hear you right. So you're looking for a chart, a written chart?
No, we were just going through, I met with
Okay.
Danny, and I just wanted to,
Yeah,
cover the bases on, because we have people
right.
leaving, coming and going at different times, and making sure that everything's covered, and it is, and we also have, we talked about there are on-call people that come in when there's vacancies or openings in different spots. Lois, did you have a question? Okay.
So going down, it's just no action items. The September minutes. Okay, we already dealt with the sign.
I apologize, Stephanie, I don't mean to interrupt, but I addressed what I thought were all the action items in my email as an info update about 3 or 4 weeks ago. Did I miss one?
Yes.
Well, the only one is.
That was in the email.
Sorry.
No.
So did you think there was another besides the forum Kathleen?
No, that's the one. Yeah.
Well, Susie, it was a bit confusing because we put it in your board chair report that Danny will discuss with the city attorney.
Oh, we need to.
Okay, but he said he sent it out a month ago, so that's, I think that was what. led to-
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, apologies. So on September 21st, I emailed the advisory board. The subject was library advisory board follow-up items. And bullet number 2 is Danny checked with city attorney this morning, and the quorum for the library advisory board is now 5.
Fine, okay. All right. I will go back and see what happens. in that meeting.
No worries.
Well, I don't like them disappearing. And I share with my husband whose eyesight is going, and he has literally. I'm very interested.
So what is it, what is it, form? 5,
Fine, yeah.
Seven.
Members.
7 is what? It's 7. So you have, yes, suppose you have a vacancy, so you're dropping. So if you have a vacancy, you're working with a lower number.
But you can't, it would have to be.
Still be four.
Four.
For four, yeah.
No, you can have an.
We have an open seat,
Yeah.
then your active group is dropped by 1, go from 8 to 7. So then you're taking a percentage of 7 to 37, correct?
I can't interpret this. This is for the city attorney. So if you have a follow-up question, I'm happy to ask for it, but I don't want to venture into this without, I don't have knowledge of, to answer your question correctly. Sorry. I established with Joe the quorum for the
Yeah.
normal, fully staffed boards.
Right.
That's all I asked. Was that not the question?
Yeah, and the board's answer, it's useful to meet a simple majority, because that's what you need to pass. So if the city's living on that.
So if it goes down to 7, you could then go down to the next odd number. No, the next odd number.
So is the follow-up question for the city attorney, what does the quorum go down to if there's a vacancy currently?
That is for 1 or more vacancies. What is the quorum calculation? How's it calculated?
I'll ask Joe to run the numbers with all.
Because
possibilities.
at the last, since I've been on the board,
Vacant.
Okay, I just been full for myself to ask that question. I'm sorry, I don't want to give you.
yeah, that is what I was trying to get out in the first place. It didn't come out in the last meeting.
Maybe you could do like 4 to 10. What would it be?
I'll ask him to just tell us for all I don't.
Yeah, it's just a percentage, and it's whether you round up or round down. That's
Yeah.
all it is. It's not, you don't have to get a math degree. That's what it is.
I asked the attorney all of these questions.
Maybe he hasn't taken any math. I don't know. That's all. I didn't mean to be, it's just that things happen and we want to have a meeting. We want to have a committee meeting or a subcommittee.
Yeah.
And we want to know without making a bunch of phone calls and emails, can we do this or not?
Yes.
That's just, so it'll help him out if we know in advance what the rules are.
Yeah, I'll happily ask him. No worries.
Thank you.
But I do have 3 going on. July 1st of 2023.
That's an action item, so.
So I have a question regarding, so the next month, we're supposed to be on the city council agenda, is that
I
situated yet or not?
asked city recorder Benham, and I'm not sure yet if we have an actual placement, but the ask was put in.
Okay.
So I will follow up with her on this.
So just so you know, Danny, I gave Susie my schedule, so she can take that and get with you on sometimes for the 3 of us to meet on that. Susie's schedule with you.
So this, between this meeting and next meeting, Lois and I and Danny, we're gonna meet and go over what presentation to the city council. We'll be in, Lois and I will put together something. If anybody has anything they'd like included or just let us know. We can always include it.
And I think that some of my questions last month about, wrapping up some of the data is because my mind was thinking ahead to, rather than and this is funny for me, I'm curious literature and I love words, but I think sometimes making presentations to people who are busy. Graphs are longer and shorter. And short is good.
Yes.
They invite you back if it's short and sweet.
Yeah.
Oh, I learned that all the time.
Does anyone have any other announcements? They'd like to bring up? Okay, so next meeting, we will go through the presentation that we're going to present to the board, which usually the city council meets the night following our meeting. So we will go through everything and hopefully not too many adjustments will need to be made. And then anyone who would like to go to the meeting of this, and hopefully that we're on the meeting.
It was also in that email on September 21st, that was the day
Yes.
I just read it again.
So our next meeting is going to be on the 15th.
And the 16th is the council meeting.
16th would be the council. So our meeting, again, once again, is our next meeting is Tuesday, November 15th.
November 16th, council agenda.
Yes.
Is present.
So, and yes, and then city council meeting will be on the 16th. So it'd be nice to have.
Wow,
As
we're
many of the
taking
things.
16.
Yeah. Yeah, and then you'll be on the.
Forget
Yeah,
LDAC, ours.
The library week.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes. Over. Let's do NAMI meeting.
Does anyone else have anything they'd like to add for our meeting or for anything we discussed?
One more.
Sure.
This comes from my wife, so consider on the messenger. Get on the list. She was wondering that is there a way at some point to get a budget permit the same operating hours for the public Monday through Friday? Well, I know there's reasons for Friday, but if it's a budget issue that's needs to went to back with or a staffing issue. I know there's maybe staff shortages trying to find people. That type of thing. But for a lot of people, Monday through Friday, it's like, oh, they can understand a weekend or a Sunday or different hours on a Saturday. And I wondered if that's any possibility, or can you think about that for the future? That's all, nothing to do.
It's something we can look into.
Yeah, that's just a request. From my wife, who is a taxpaying citizen in the county, so.
That's a valid request.
That was a request. District patron, not a city patron. District.
Non-direct.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just. Yeah, it's just people are habitual and, you know, okay, this is it.
It's 10 to 6. So that's easier. It is.
Okay, so I'm sorry to add that at the end, but.
No, that's the time. Okay, well, I would like to adjourn the meeting. It is 6:12. Okay, early. Thank you.
When we adjourn the meeting, I'll agree with you, yourself.
Okay, thank you. You'll second it.
If you're hired for another meeting.